This is Leicester Till I Die TV. Watch and subscribe on YouTube and listen on your podcast platform.
Hi everybody, Jerry Taggart here. Now be sure to watch Chris and Leicester Till I Die TV by subscribing on YouTube and following them on social media for all the latest Leicester City news and information. Come on you foxes!
Strap yourself in,
because we're set up, switched on and ready to go.
Eight, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And it's live.
Good evening, fellow Fox fans. It's Monday, the 19th of April, 2021. Is it rest in peace football? Is today the day the football died, to misquote a certain American song? It looks like it's going to be all changed very soon. Good evening. I'm here. How are you doing? Tonight we were supposed to be talking about the fact that we're going to win our first FA Cup final since 1969. And just to show you how long ago that was, dinosaurs didn't quite rule the earth, but I was only 8 years old at the time, so that shows it was almost in a different period. But we can't talk about that. We've got to talk about this European Super League. It's kind of taken over everything, and you know. Well, I've got three people that will be joining us in a minute, but what I've got to tell you first of all is this isn't a modern phenomenon when football seems to be shooting itself in the foot and football clubs seem to be shooting themselves in the foot. If you go back to the 1990s, it happened a lot then, and it was happening to Leicester City. And if you want to know what happened to Leicester City in the 1990s, this is the book you need, Minding My Own Football Business. It's written by one of my guests this evening, Leicester City's first chief executive, Mr. Pierpoint. And he's written this book, and if you go to www.mindingmyownfootballbusiness.com and join April, you can get 30% off. That's not a bad deal, is it? And he'll even sign it for you. And if you were one of those that were holding up the Pierpoint out signs, I don't know what he'll say in the book. The second word might be off. Who knows? But I tell you what, I thought I knew Barrie until I read the book, until I spoke to him, and it does make you realise it's great for those of my age, because it does sort of make you think it wasn't all what you thought was going on, and it's great for the youngsters because it's a piece of history and it shows them how far the club has come. All the W's, mindingmyownfootballbusiness.com, and you get 30% off. It's a great, great deal. But like I say, today, with the announcements as they're coming in, who knows? Some people know some things, managers don't know something. All it seems to be doing is uniting every single football fan. I've had United fans, have been talking with City fans, agreeing with Forest fans, agreeing with Leicester fans, agreeing with ex-players, agreeing with players. It's a little bit sort of, if nothing else, it's brought all the fans together. Let's just have a look at a couple of comments. Stefan, good evening, Stefan. How are you? Aston Villa, what do you think, mate? You used to be one of the big clubs. Not saying you're not big now, but, you know, scheme of trophies, etc. Stephen Collins, good evening, sir, from Ireland. How the devil are you? And Brad, good evening, Brad, our mod in here this evening. Let us remember one thing. This is the club owners, not the fans and players. They get my full sympathy in this horrible breaking news. Totally agree, 100%. And if you have a look at some of the managers that have been on screen, kind of been hung out to dry a little bit, because I don't think that they even knew, Jack, good evening to Jack, how the devil used to. Thanks for joining us, Jack Short. Right, let's get some guests in, shall we? Just to remind you, though, of course, where you can find us. We are all over the place, literally. Leicester Till I Die TV on YouTube. Please click the subscribe button and help us get the numbers up. Facebook at Leicester at Leicester. Facebook is Leicester Till I Die, the group. I'm still drunk from last night celebrating. Twitter is at Leicester TID. Give us a follow, like, subscribe on all of those things. First of all, going to bring in my normal football show host, and we're going to say good evening to Josh. Have you calmed down, Josh?
Just before we obviously move on to the matter at hand, I just want to quickly say, obviously, it wouldn't be right coming onto the show not to mention it, but yesterday was just absolutely fantastic. I guess a lot of the viewers will probably see the photo that my missus put up of me in distress watching the game, to be honest with you. But it was just absolutely brilliant, mate. It was fantastic, and what a way to do it as well.
Distress, you looked asleep to me.
Probably me closing my eyes, because I mean, especially the last half hour just went by so slow. It was awful, but it was what a day.
It wasn't the most exciting the game.
It wasn't, but we got the job done, and it's absolutely brilliant, fantastic.
We did. Hey, we won. That's all that matters, and it's good. So we're looking at the fans. Josh is going to give us the fans' view, and the two guys that have drawn the short straws this evening. First of all, good evening to Julian. You all know Julian, the regular show. Good evening, Julian.
Evening, guys. You okay?
Evening, Julian.
Yeah, well, mixed emotions, like Josh said. But you're going to sort of let us know what the players must be going through, because I don't think that half of them didn't. Well, they probably knew this was going on, because this has been going around for a few years now, hasn't it? But they didn't expect it to sort of happen when it's happened. So we're going to get a players and ex-players view from Julian, and the guy who's really got the short straw. And you'll have possibly read his thoughts on the Leicester Mercury website this evening. The gentleman who indeed wrote that book, and he's been there, seen it, got the T-shirt. Barrie, our first chief executive. Good evening, sir.
Good evening to everybody. How are we?
We're not so bad. I hope you all like the falling money backdrop, because it kind of sums up how things are going at the moment. It kind of, I'll start with you, Josh, as the fan. It kind of pissed me off. I'm going to put it bluntly, because all this weekend it should be about Leicester in the FA Cup final. I put on Sky News, and for the first 35 minutes, we weren't mentioned, because last night it was all about this. And, Ollie was coming out after his game, because it was announced during his game. He obviously knew nothing about it. It's almost, I mean, I put up a thing there saying, RIP football, but it is like the death throes as football as we know it.
Definitely, mate. And you're right. And, it's just our luck, I guess, that this is massive news, and it's going to change football the way we look at it, if it does go ahead, which I believe it's going to, because I think it's gone too far for the greedy six now, so to speak, to back out of it. I mean, to go into it, I could talk about it. I mean, you need a 3 or 4 hour show, to be honest with you. I think there's so many negatives to it that outweigh positives, and I think that shows with ex-players coming on TV, and you listen to on Talk Sport and such, and everybody's just so against it. And like I say, it's just unfortunate for us that it happened on what was our biggest game in God knows how many years, to reach the FA Cup final, and to not have the sort of spotlight on us for even a day, and it's just unfortunately that's the case. It's just our luck.
I know. I mean, on TalkSport earlier, Julian, I was listening to a Liverpool fan that was just going to stop supporting Liverpool. I mean, whether they will go that far, but I mean, you know, I know when I started watching football, you know, you went along with your parents, your brothers, whoever, and you know, even, you know, now it is all money, and you know, the problem is that we've got a line already with Sky, but it's literally, you know, an away game to me. Well, I live on the south coast, so an away game to me would be going up to Leicester. But you know, an away game soon is going to be against, you know, United fans. They've got to travel over or whatever. Where they get the money from? Or they're going to be paying sky high for. I would imagine they're going to. All these clubs are going to have their own streams and sideline the Sky and BT and what have you. It's just. It's not about the fans anymore, is it?
No, I think that's one of the biggest things that's come out of all the news today is how disgusted the fans are, not just with other clubs, which is quite normal, but, you know, actually with their own clubs and their anger, they're venting at their own clubs, which, you know, they may calm down, you know, in the coming days and weeks and what have you, but just to see the reaction today, and it just sort of sums up that, you know, these decisions have obviously been made and there's been a lot of work done in the background without, you know, particular support or you know wanting this for the fans. It's just been more about, well, it's more about money, isn't it? We all know that, and the fans have probably been the furthest thing from the organisers, you know, of this new league.
Barrie, what was quite poignant was they were showing the game yesterday, the Man United game, and there was a big banner. You know, they got now there's no fans in. They've got big flags all around the ground, and there's one from, and it was a quote from Sir Matt Busby: "Football is nothing without the fans." And here they are, the owners of that club. They're literally alienating the fans, and have they learnt nothing about? You know, they've had a season without fans, over a season without fans. And all they're doing is forcing more fans away. And, you know, you've got people, you know, things like Sir Matt Busby, Alex Ferguson. It's almost like they've got a death wish.
I think the problem is some of the bigger clubs don't really connect very well with fans. And I think they think the club's bigger than the fans and they're bigger than everybody else. You know, I'm a great believer that the fans are the heart and soul of a club. And, you know, you've got to look after those people, because at the end of the day, they're with you through thick and thin. They're not just there for 5 minutes and disappear. Commercialism is fine to a degree, but commercialism can get out of control and it can become evil. And, you know, this is becoming evil, and it's ripping, or will rip if it goes ahead, rip the English football apart. You know, the whole thing will be ripped apart. And where do we all stand with this? These people get what they want. Everybody else is left in a quagmire. Really, that's the terminology to use.
Yeah, I mean, we were speaking just before we came live, and I'm going to stick with you for this, Barrie, if I can, because you've got, of the 6 clubs that have done it, I think there's 4 or 5 of them are American owned, and they're I can't think of the word, but their plan, if you like, for their teams and their NBA teams and the American football teams is completely different. They'll set a team up in one side of the country and move it over to the other side of the country if it suits them, you know. And the Americans don't have that connection that we've grown up with as soccer, let's call it, so we don't get confused. You know, and it's like you say, they haven't got that connection, but they don't understand the game. They don't understand the history, you know. And I think I'm not sure who it was, but they were talking to one American businessman once, and he said about is he going to buy this club? And he said no, because I can't make any money out of it. And that's what it comes down to, isn't it? They're not buying this. It's not like, you know, Mr. Joe Blogg's double glaze in Leicester buying, you know, Leicester City because he supported them all his life and keeping them going. It is all about money and, you know, how they can make more money, isn't it?
Well, it is. And what I'm concerned about is we don't want to start. I mean, the Americans, for their NFL and all that sort of, have a very different model. They have a model
That's the word I was looking for. Model. Thank you.
It's a business model, or it's a format model which they use, which is different. It's like protectionism, and it's not the way that we operate in this country. I mean, the trouble is now with all these foreign investors, I'm nothing against foreign investors, providing they, sort of stick to the rules, in my view, about keeping football English and keeping football as it came through the ranks and how it originated. But the Americans tend to want to change everything. And this Super League they're talking about will be very Americanized, and it will also be a different sort of model to what we're used to. Protectionism, I think elitism, it's all about money. Is it about the sport and the game of football? Is it more about where we get more money from and how we're going to get more money and how can we extract more money? And where's all that money going to go to? Is it going into the development of the game, or is it going into somebody's pocket? That's the real issue.
I would guess somebody's pocket, if I'm honest with you. Julian, from a player's point of view, you basically they won't get a say in this. Well, we've got to kind of accept that it's not the players. They've kind of, because it's their employer that's doing this. If my employer that I used to work for decides they want to move from Bournemouth into Wimborne, which is an hour's drive away, then there's not an awful lot I can do. But they're talking about, and I don't know whether they will be allowed to do this, but they're on about UEFA and FIFA saying that the players won't then be allowed to play for their national teams. If that's the case, and we'll come on to whether they're allowed to or not in a minute, but if that's the case, wouldn't you be knocking on the owner's door saying, what the hell's going on here?
You would, I think. It's the funny bit. Gary's already said it as well. It's the way the game's going. It is just becoming more and more about money and less about football and everything else that goes with football historically that we've all known as kids growing up. And when it gets to that point where it is just about money, there aren't really any considerations for the people at the top of the organisation to take, because financially they'll do very well out of it. They'll do unbelievably well out of it. I'm led to believe 3.5 billion each, and that really that's their motivation. So in their minds, they've got it right. The players, again, does money get in the way of you wanting to play for your country? I mean that's a one for an individual footballer. I know myself. I'd rather, if I had the choice, play for my country. But there might be a few out there who think, do you know what? I'm going to get paid a fair few quid for doing this, and I'm guaranteed European football every year. So I think it's probably a different or a difficult viewpoint from players, for what they would expect if they are in in one of the squads of the top six, in the countries, as to how their career would progress. So, and I would feel for them in that position. Like I say, they haven't got the choice until the contract ends anyway. So it's a real difficult one for them. I think you'd be surprised that after this initial reaction today, some might be a bit more for it than you might imagine.
And there's some Melina. Good evening, Melina. Thank you for joining us. An Arsenal and Real Madrid fan. I was talking to her earlier on the Twitter accounts we have, and as an Arsenal fan, she's decided she's going to start supporting Leicester City now. So they're starting to lose the fans already. Welcome, Melina. You'll be welcome as a fox, I'll tell you. And if you listen to Talk Sport, half the Liverpool fans are leaving. Somebody has said here, and I've just lost it. Jake has said, as Gary Neville said, well, bring it up. It's been a bit slow. I don't know how it's working for you guys. It's been a bit slow for me here. But as Gary Neville said, Liverpool claim to be You'll Never Walk Alone club and the fans club. And the Iron Man of Man United have a banner, as I said earlier, saying football is nothing without the fans. Yeah, it's all about money. Somebody else has said there's going to be the first £1 million player soon. That's what we see in America with the basketball, with the American football. And I remember, Josh, when we won the league in 2015-16, there was rumours that club owners were coming out saying, we can't allow this to happen again. And it's almost like that's coming to fruition because, do fans really want to watch a league where whatever happens, your team's not going to get relegated. It's going to be even worse than watching, football, isn't it?
I wouldn't, mate. At the end of the day, we all watch football because there's each week there's something, there's something on the line. You go back to our Great Escape season. Every week, we were losing games up until the last 10 or 11 games, and we were getting unlucky results. But it's just a feeling of just thinking, God, we can get out of this. And without that, and without the possibility of relegation, and what's the point? It's just literally, it's a spectacle for the owners. They know they're going to make millions and millions, possibly billions from it, because they can afford to buy all the world-class players, all the big players. They can afford to pay them hundreds of £1,000s a week without question. And without competition, it's just a glorified friendly league, really. It's just like going to watch, in basketball terms, it's like watching the Harlem Globetrotters every week. It's ridiculous. It really is. And they're bigging it up, it's going to be fantastic. Europe, the giants of European football playing each other every week. What's the point? We look forward to the Champions League and even Europa League to a certain extent for us this season, because you're playing against teams that you wouldn't usually play against, and you go into the Champions League and you're thinking, God, we could play Real Madrid in the quarterfinals, we could play them in the semi-finals, or maybe even the final. That's just going to get lost because it's going to be a case of Man United. Who you got this week? Juventus. So you got next week? Barcelona. And playing, it's going to lose its magic. It really is. And the appeal of it does not appeal to me at all. And from what we've seen today, and the outcry of the fans from the greedy six, which I'm going to call them from now on, which they are. I feel so sorry for their fans because they've got no say in it whatsoever. It's completely took out of their hands, and just by greedy owners who want to make more money than what they've already got at the minute. Like Man City, they've got more money than they can count. What more do you want? It's absolutely it's madness, mate. It really is.
Melina and Brad, welcome along.
Thank you for having me.
Melina, do you want to send you a shirt? Do you want to send you a shirt?
I don't know where to start. You got to start teaching me the cheers of the Foxes. I am appalled and more like disgraced that, I feel like this was already set in stone ages ago and it was just a matter of being publicized. As an Arsenal fan for my sins and as a Madrid fan, a Real Madrid diehard fan, this hurts because it's no longer about the fans, a sport that was, started off made by the poor, and now it's consumed by greed. So much greed in sport. And as a Canadian, very close to America, this has now become like the NBA. There's going to be commercials, a lot of betting. It's just now all of us fans on this panel. I know you guys are not part of this for now, but now us fans are seen as nothing but a barcode, nothing but a dollar bill. And it's disgraceful that any of our fans have not spoken up about this, and any of our players. No Arsenal player currently in the squad has spoken up about this. An ex-Arsenal player, the only player to speak up about this from the Arsenal squad is Ian Wright, an Arsenal legend, and Mesut Ozil, which is interesting. But another thing I wanted to add here was Sir Arsene Wenger. He warned us about this in 2008. And everybody said, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. But you know what? At the end of the day, power from the global elites and greed has won. And I think as of Friday, the UCL goes to PSG. So it's crazy. It's crazy how much football news has come out.
I mean, you sent me the link this morning about Jose going from Tottenham. We still don't know exactly why he left. It's not come out yet, but it has escalated so quickly today. And Brad, you were saying there that will UEFA, will FIFA, will the FA, La Liga, and all this chuck these big teams out? I mean, if they chuck the teams out from the semis that they're in this year, that's just hurting the fans. And at the end of the day, it shouldn't be the fans that are being hurt.
No, it shouldn't. Unfortunately, Melina's right, and all of you guys that have spoke before are right. It's unfortunately the fans are going to suffer one way or another. They're going to suffer over the next week. Kind of to try to be the Sky Sports pundit from here, a bit of breaking news that has come out. Probably a lot of sources are saying that UEFA are that strongly and passionate about the decision, like Melina just said there, that they are wholeheartedly saying we will kick you out of the competition. They actually have this means in progress that if the European Super League gets to go ahead, they will no longer be able to compete in a division that they're no longer recognised in. So, in regards to that, details aside, the Champions League would no longer have a semi-final where Man City, Real Madrid, and the others are involved.
Yeah.
Chelsea, thank you. I couldn't think. That also has a knock-on effect, I would assume, with Europa League, with Arsenal and Manchester United. And I believe because it is already at a final stage that Leicester City would get awarded the FA Cup because Chelsea are no longer considered a team that are registered for that cup competition. Spain, however, some clubs have also
just before we go on to other countries, Brad, I want to come over to Barrie first, and I will come back then on to Julian. Barrie, you're the one with sort of the sort of, I guess, knowledge of sort of maybe the legal side and what have you. Would the clubs not be straight down the courts, going like restriction of practices and restriction of trade, and you can't do this, and and the solicitors are the ones that are making a lot of money?
There's going to be a lot of discussions, debates, going to be a lot of arguing, a lot of statements being put out. There's going to be a lot of fighting, a lot of pushing and shoving going on, a lot of legal costs going on. So I don't think it's going to be as easy as just happening tomorrow, next week, or in a few months' time. There's a lot of things going to have to happen before this thing takes shape. This obviously has been discussed behind closed doors for quite some time. The timing of the announcement has been very, very carefully picked, and obviously it's got a long way down the line, but nobody else knew of it. It was coming. I mean, it's been talked about for some years, hasn't it? This has, but nobody knew it was going to be coming like this. So a lot of things are going to happen. I think a lot of protests by the fans. I think a lot of fans will be joining forces. I think the government will be involved. I think lots of bodies will be involved. And I don't think it's going to be a walkover by these people. If it happens after a long, long battle. If it doesn't happen, it's because, people like us have won the day, but we'll have to see. I'm just hoping that it doesn't happen, because I don't want to see all these football clubs in this country ripped apart, and I don't want to see English football just being decimated by this Americanized model.
Julian, the worry for me is when you look at this, and today we know we've seen the leaders of the two main parties, Boris and Keir, both saying that they're going to do the best to stop it and what have you, and maybe it will even unite political parties. Who knows? But when you look at the owners of these American companies, they're not stupid. I mean, taking Melina's owner there, Stan Kroenke, just looking at, he owns Walmart apparently. Kroenke Sports and
his wife owns Walmart.
Los Angeles Rams, Colorado Avalanche. The Chelsea. Well, we all know what Abramovich sort of owns. And you just go down Tottenham here. Their owners into currency trading. They're gonna know where they stand, aren't they? And this is what makes me think, as much as we do all this shouting and what have you, it's almost going to be like hitting a head against the brick wall, isn't it?
It is, isn't it? And I think it goes back to what I touched on earlier. The motivation and the target, if you like, for these owners is money. And they will know that that's coming in. I think Melina touched on it when she said, everything will be more commercialised. It takes a good couple of hours to watch a Super Bowl final. It'll be the same with this. They'll be stopping and starting, adverts, all the razzmatazz, and that for me again would kill the game. So, but as we've said, though, it's the money's the thing for them, and they will come out with lots and lots of money, and they'll be making fortunes from these other revenues that they'll introduce, and that for them is the goal. So in their minds, they've done this carefully, knowing that they're going to be successful in that kind of way. But we want to see owners be successful, as we have at Leicester City, promoting the fans, helping the fans, and getting that real good family, feel back to grounds around the country. So that's going to be the biggest disappointment.
I mean, having said that, I've just got visions now of like the FA Cup final at half time. You've got cheerleaders. I wouldn't mind that at all, but I can imagine. I can imagine with Leicester, they have Janet Jackson. We'd have Showaddy Waddy coming on. I can't say too much about Showaddy Waddy because he's coming on in a couple of weeks, Dave Bartram, so he's a good mate, so he knows I'm jesting. Melina sat there thinking, like, now who the hell's Showaddy Waddy? Yeah, Google them after. They were a big Leicester band. Josh sat very patiently up there in the car. I do feel like I'm on Celebrity Squares here with the 6 of you in here. But, Josh, I mean, the joke about all this, right? And let's be honest with you, Spurs, you've got all these clubs, Man City, Man United. Yet they've got in the recent history, they've got trophies, what have you. What the hell? What are the Spurs doing in there? I can even make an argument for putting Arsenal in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Why are we in there? No, I'm not even surprised.
Yeah. It's the big six and also Arsenal are mid-table. 2 mid-table sides and the big 4. That's what it is.
The way I look
Josh,
at it
carry on, mate.
It's all right. I think me and Melina will know, being a Real Madrid fan, they're in massive debt. So
we haven't signed a player in 4 years, an actual credible player.
Exactly, and they're in massive debt. Barcelona in debt. Spurs got £1 billion stadium to play off. So it's no surprise to me that Spurs couldn't wait to jump on this bandwagon, because with it's ridiculous, like 3.5 billion. I think Julian said at the start that each team's going to get as founders of this league. There's the stadium paid off, and then they're going to have another 2.5 billion to It's just little things like that, mate. There's been no consideration for the fans at all. They come out saying, Glazer's come out and he said, it's going to be amazing for European football. We're going to see these great teams every week. If they, at the end of the day, fans are what make football. I know it's cliche, but it's so true. Without fans, without fans, football's nothing. If they cared about the fans and they cared of what we thought, even as neutral fans, and they asked them what they thought about it, judging from the response they've got since the announcement was made last night, then it'd been swept under the carpet. They'd have said, no, we're not doing it. We'll just carry on as normal. But it just goes to show the owners don't care, because it is all about money, unfortunately, Chris. We know football's a business nowadays. I think we've come to that conclusion where, you've got the likes of, foreign owners coming in, such as ourselves. We are extremely lucky with our owners. Man City owners, they put billions into the club. We got used to that. It's the lesser of the two evils now, as you look at it, though. I'd give anything for that to still be the case, but it's not going to be now, because we've just got, it's a bitter pill to swallow. But this is happening now, regardless of what we think about it. It's a disgrace. It really is a disgrace, and it's sad.
Yeah, Stephen says, and I'm not going to bring the comments up because it's taking too long because my system's running slow here. Stephen Collins says we are blessed to have the owners we have, and I think yes, I was trying to explain to somebody that wasn't a football fan. I think football fans from around sort of the UK would love to have the owners we have. Bronze Plumber says make the FA responsible for authorising work visas. The greedy 6 would lose all foreign players or else move abroad. Bosnia no longer applies since Brexit. Andy Medhurst, I hope they don't put the price of beer up. Yeah, you got your priorities right there, Andy. That's the thing. I agree. I'm going to agree. And I'll tell you what, knowing what Julian drinks, I've seen the pictures. He hopes the old Chardonnay doesn't go up in price either. And we've got Facebook user fan needs to boycott their games. TV rights won't be so valuable then. I put a thing up. Oops, you can see what's all going wrong. Brad, I'm just going to work round now in circles, like I say, Celebrity Square style. This was what is up at the Manchester United ground, and I alluded to this earlier on in the show. And it's to Matt Busby. You can't see because of the banner. Football is nothing without fans. Would you, if this was Leicester, and I know Melina's going to boycott the ground. She's not going to go to the Emirates and watch it.
Yeah.
From Canada. But Brad, would you say, right, I'm not going to go down the King Power because of this. I'm not going to watch Leicester. Because if the diehard fans say that and boycott the club, you're still going to get those that haven't been able to get a season ticket for years. Oh, this is my chance to go and watch them.
No, to me, at the end of the day, I was raised upon football being a competition, not a secure, closed-off league. If Leicester City were one of these clubs, I'm telling you this now, I've been alive for 30 years on this planet, and according to my mum, I was probably supporting Leicester in the womb. I would go and find a local team and go and follow them because they can have my money. They deserve my money. They're not wanting to break away from football. They want to keep it competitive. They want football to be what football is. I mean, I've not seen a unity in football like this ever. Yeah. I don't think in the history of football, there's not been a unity like this. I mean, like I said in the comments, UEFA are hoping to strip clubs out of the competition this season. Flags from the COP are being stripped from the grounds, from the clubs, from the businesses that, funny enough, businesses that organise and support the clubs are saying we don't support what you're doing, we're taking our stuff back. Players are coming out and saying it. Managers are slowly coming out of the woodwork. If this does get the approval, then I just think we let them. I'd say if you're willing to spend 3.6 billion, like the figure that's thrown out to get these clubs in, why not just build your own 20 teams? Why not just build your own 20 teams, call it the Retirement FC, and have these multi-million footballers go play there, so you can have your poxy 20 game, no relegation, no fair, no fault things. I want football to be competitive. Funny enough, it's what I enjoy about it. You know, it brings me to despair and joy in the same breath.
I'll interject there before it's the blood vessel, Brad. Give you a chance to
that's
get your breath back. I have to wait for Brad to take a breath to jump in between comments. Melina, I think you actually maybe sent me this morning.
I did send you this morning.
Launching a new pizza. Yeah, tap-ins, greed portrayals, some amazing football teams in Arsenal and Spurs. I mean, I look at this and I look at Scotland, right? And at the moment, it is kind of not quite as bad as Scotland because Leicester came along and we broke the party up. But it is at Man City, Man United, or it is always one. I nearly said Spurs then, but not Spurs. But it is always one of the big clubs that seems to be winning it. Where I'd be quite happy, say, well, you lot, bugger off, and let the teams like Leicester, West Ham, Everton, and those have their own league, and we'll play without you. And it just because your team's not in there doesn't, to my mind, doesn't devalue it at all.
I have a question for you guys as Leicester City fans. If you guys have to watch, Leicester competing without the Big Six, how would you feel? I assume it's not going to be the same. Definitely. What, Leicester not playing Arsenal, Leicester not playing Man City, it just takes the whole passion and the whole history of football away. The rivalries aside, it's not going to be the same.
The disappointment with us not playing Arsenal is with it. That's 6 points we've lost straight away.
And Spurs, to be fair. So that's 12 points.
Yeah, but we haven't got a Spurs fan in, so it wouldn't have been fun. Actually, Julian, would you miss it? I mean, I was basically saying the same there as Melina, and she asks a very valid point. Would it devalue if the Premier League was the Premier League without those 6, and the Champions League was the Champions League without these 15 in it? Would that devalue it at all?
I think inevitably, very quickly it would do, but I think it's something that would grow again because we look at clubs now and, we consider Leicester is a really, really big club. Your West Ham's always have been, but in this sort of Premier League era and the money they have been getting, these clubs have really built themselves up. Leeds United back in the Premier League, Wolverhampton Wanderers, they've been massive clubs at some point in the history. And they've rebuilt themselves. So I would imagine early doors, then, it would be something that it might just take the shine off it. But then there's still fierce rivalries outside, the so-called top six. But one of the things I was sort of thinking that would be quite interesting and not wanting to have a dig at Melina is that Arsenal and Spurs' form lately hasn't been fantastic.
Oh no, we're shit. Sorry. Sorry, you called me on here because I'm a realistic tuner, not a deluded one.
Can you imagine these?
I needed this so I can cut these words out.
Can you imagine Tottenham in a bad vein of form, few injuries, playing these elite clubs week in, week out, and getting beat week in, week out? I mean, and that's a definite possibility that I don't think anyone they're so sort of concentrated on the cash. They've not thought about things like that because it could be for a club a horrific experience that they then lose the players on the back of the form. Are they then kicked out? Are they going to get parachute payments? It's a massive thing, I think, to get into it without realising what it's actually going to be.
I don't know if you guys touched on this, but players who actually compete in this European Super League, they can't play in the Euro Cup. They can't play in the World Cup. And most of you guys being from England, we lose Mason Mount, Greenwood, Saka, Phil Foden, Kevin De Bruyne, Sterling, so much talent in that England squad. And I guess the Euros are now in Germany's hands at this point. Portugal lose Juan Mata. It's ridiculous.
Germany loses Ozit Muzzle. Oh no, you're right. That won't make any difference, will it? we actually touched on that. I know she's the one female, and I'm picking on her. I'm not being nice, am I? But Josh, we touched on England before in the internationals and all this. And I'm going to come to Barrie after you in a second. But Josh, to be honest with you, if I never saw England play again, it wouldn't bother me because Leicester's number one for me. When was 1966 was the last time we won anything. I don't see us win anything in the near future. I'm not bothered if England don't play again.
I'm with you. I've always been club before country for me, mate. It's a real, unless it's it's the World Cup or the Euros, it's a real chore to try and watch England nowadays. In the international breaks, I think everybody dreads it coming up, and it's such a long 2 weeks before your last Premier League game, and then before you return. It's hard work. It really is. They try and build it up as much as they can, with this, with a new tournament, the European Championship, whatever they bloody want to call it. That England got to the semi-finals of a couple of years back, and it's hard. It really is hard, and I think if the FA and UEFA are to stick to the guns and say no, if you play in this European Super League, you can't play for your international team. That's it, and it will make watching international football even harder. So you think the viewing numbers and things like that, and I suppose the excitement for the bigger tournaments will just completely dwindle. And eventually, this European Super League's opened up such a can of worms, mate. And even with the international football, it's a good point you raised, because I didn't really think about that side of things, but it's going to affect everything. It really is.
I want to play devil's advocate here for a minute with Barrie. Andy's just said there, I watched them in League One when Leicester were in the third tier. Barrie, when you are... if this happens, if this goes ahead, surely in a way it will actually benefit a lot of the smaller clubs further down the pyramid, because let's say we kick those 6 teams out, so Sheffield United and the bottom 3 will stay up maybe, and then 3 come up from there, and it has a knock-on effect. But you've got those clubs out of the pyramid, and therefore I think the smaller clubs, the non-leagues, the National League clubs, it will benefit them. because we can't go down as clubs like, and we're in the next tier, if you like, after the big six, and we've got to go and get our players. I mean, we probably do anyway, but from those sort of clubs, and it all, I don't know, I can see it benefiting some clubs.
Yeah, it depends really, because I think the important thing is that if we lost those 6 clubs, obviously there'd be room for 6 more to move up from the league below. But my concern would be, where would we get the same sort of financial support in the Premier League and all the other leagues that we have today, that we enjoy today? Because I think there's only so much money to go around here. I mean, it might be global, and there's lots of money out there globally, but yeah, it will benefit to some degree. But I think it will also be, where's all the money going to come from, and who's going to, put this money up? Because at the end of the day, I don't care what anybody says, you can only put so much money into football. And after that, you're not careful, you'll be giving all your money away and there'll be no money anywhere for anybody. So yeah, I think it could do, but I'm also concerned about, will some money shift from the Premier League into this Super League if it actually gets the go ahead and takes off. I can remember going to Premier League meetings when Leicester was first in the Premier League, and I can remember 2 or 3 clubs being very greedy then when the Premier League had agreed a model of how the commercial monies were going to be brought in, how it was going to be split, and how it was going to be, played amongst all the teams in that particular league. And I can remember 2 or 3 greedy people then thinking they could do their own thing, and they were knocked down very quickly. But those people are still in this 6 now. 3 of them are still there, and I think that's probably been rumbling on for quite some time. 1 or 2 clubs think they're bigger than everybody else, bigger than the Premier League, and so therefore they believe that they can demand a lot more money than other football teams, other football clubs in the Premier League, and that's unfair when you have a league that is designed to make sure the money split, reasonably well across the teams. And then of course there's a ladder payments depending on where you sit at the end of the season. So yeah, could benefit, but then I'm just worried about finance. I am worried.
Yeah. I think it's going to hit hard for a few years until it all sort of sorts out. Brad, I'm going to come to you in a second, but I have worked this out, because you think I just throw this program together. You sit there and you think, oh yeah, you just picks it up of him. But I actually do think about this program, and I actually realise there is one guy out there that can help us in this situation. He's not a superhero. He's not a government minister, but he is a guy that has got expertise in this field, and I think he could just sort it out. And we've got to go and get Campbell, haven't we? I mean, he's got to be the man for the job, surely. Who else? No, I mean, he's not working at the moment. He's not got a party. Let's get him on board.
Anyway, when there's a part of the coming to the club, you get a free pint with him.
Yeah. Oh, indeed. But Brad, going on what Barrie was saying there. I mean, I know at the moment every football game's on, and if you love watching football generally, as I do, that you got so many games to choose from. But in a normal season, most of the games are, and I'm not having to dig at you again here, Melina, but it is the big six. It is Man United. It isn't the weekend when Man United are on the telly, or Man City are on the telly, or what have you. And they only put sort of Sheffield United, Fulham on, because they're contractually obliged to. But those of us that sort of, I mean, I've got Now TV for the Sky. I've got Amazon for when Amazon, I've got BT for the cup games and when we're in the Europa League. I'm not going to pay for another one to watch another set of football games. And Brad, I'd go and sort of, so I can't watch Man United play Tottenham this week, but you know what? I can watch Everton play Crystal Palace, and I would probably sooner watch Everton play Crystal Palace than Man United play Tottenham.
Yeah, definitely. I'm in the same boat as that. And look, whether people like it or not, and whether it's in the law or not, people find a way to do it that's free these days anyway, as it is, because it's just such unaffordable prices for most working class people. As it is, I'm definitely not one of them. I'm definitely not one of them people that streams games.
Of course you're not.
But the point is, you totally like, oh, I know, right? The worst liar ever. You wouldn't want me in court, would you? In regards to that, you say you pay like £40 alone for Sky, just for Sky Sports, and then on top of that, another £40. You're talking close to £120, £150 for another channel to do exactly the same. It's ridiculous already what people are paying, and I find it quite funny that one more thing that at least 3 or 4 of these clubs have in common, other than wanting this own Super League, is all their managers were moaning they were playing too much. But all of a sudden, because there's more money talk, they're happy to play midweek and the weekend football and the Champions. And how they're going to fit it all in? I mean, apparently it's such a struggle now to do it. I mean, Jurgen Klopp, just as I just got a notification on my phone, has actually come out and said I was not involved in the process, despite Liverpool pledging themselves to this competition. Jurgen Klopp has actually come out on Sky Sports now in the last few minutes and stated I wasn't involved. So it just shows you how ridiculously greedy this situation was. And I think it's brilliant that the other 14 clubs have gone, all right, then we'll have a meeting without you, because right now you don't exist. So, yeah, I just think this will be, like Barry said, it's kind of the reverse of it balancing out the influx of money for them not being in the Premier League. It's a good cash injection for the first season, why people get it that aren't avid that are part-time football fans. It's not it's a secondary sport. They only watch maybe the Champions League, because there are fans out there that only watch these big games. It's exactly why they think it's a good idea to put forward. But once that boring effect wears off, and all of a sudden they realise that grassroots football is suddenly getting more money because fans are putting the money there, they're going to scrap the idea. And then all of a sudden, I tell you this now, the six owners of them clubs are going to come with their tails between their legs years down the line if this goes ahead. There's more chance of that happening than there is the 14 other clubs and owners begging them to come back to the Premiership. Because guess what? We found a way to play fantastic, exciting football without them. We'll do it again.
Yeah, Melina, following on from what Brad said there, I've just worked out I'm paying £624 a year to watch Premier League football.
Wow. You double that.
Just to burst your bubble even more. The European Super League apparently.
No, I was going to ask you.
It's going to be £14 a game to watch European Super League. If you guys want to watch £14.
And if my team was in it, I might consider that, and then I'd get rid of all the others because my team wouldn't be on the other platforms. But you're living in Canada, you sort of, and this has always been a bugbear with Premier League fans, is that, do you get it free? Do you get it free to air Premier League?
I pay for DAZN or DAZN. It's a streaming services. And initially yesterday, they actually said they wanted exclusive broadcasting rights to get hold of this. And then today they turned on it and they said, no, we don't want it. I think because a lot of people have canceled their subscription with DAZN, that they've turned the corner and they've said, okay, we're against it now. We're not going to be broadcasting this. So Sky's taking over that. I use IPTV for Sky and BT Sports over here. And then the rest I watch on Amazon and on DAZN. So about 20 quid. Not much, though.
I mean,
not as much as for you guys.
We're paying more in this country to watch a product that is from this country. Julian, I mean, you look at who's coming out. I mean, Klopp's now come out, as Brad said, and he's saying that he didn't know anything about this. He's not going to be happy, I wouldn't imagine. But at the end of the day, he's got to think of his job, etc. But you've got not just the fans saying this is ridiculous. You've got Gary Neville slamming his own team. You've got Carragher slamming his own team. You've got Wenger was coming out saying this won't work, this is rubber. You got Alex Ferguson. You've got two managers there who, between them, have probably got most of the trophies that's been won. If the groundswell is big enough, do you think it would be enough to stop it happening?
I think there'd be so much work already done that obviously we don't know about, and I think they will have really sort of looked into whether it is feasible, the backlash that they're going to, surely this must have been thought of. And I think as the days gone by today, it's just been more and more obvious that the only people who want it to happen are these owners that that are involved with the clubs. Like the Greedy Six in England, they definitely want it to happen. And again, like I say, I've said it before, the financial rewards for actually doing it will be huge. And I feel like they'll press on with it. They'll have looked at the legalities of it, all the different angles. Because I don't think they would make an announcement to then, turn around and do a U-turn. And so actually, no, we didn't realise the reaction. We're going to, they're going to push ahead, whatever, in my opinion. So I think it's done, more or less. And it's just obviously we've just got to go through the motions until it starts.
Yeah. Josh, apparently Tunchel's, according to Andy Meadows, Tunchel's come out and said that he didn't know anything about it as well. I mean, it's making a lot of managers look pretty stupid. With Mourinho, the rumours are that he refused to teach, and he was at Man United. Mourinho was against this happening on. There was somebody put one of his old posts up earlier today. So I could believe. I mean, if he has done that, I'm going to say total respect to the guy. If he has said, done that. Having said that, he's earned enough money in his payoffs to support the ESL on his own, hasn't he? But these players and managers, they've got to think of the career, I suppose, haven't they? But would it be a big miss? You couldn't surely kick Man City, Man United. No disrespect to Arsenal and Southampton, they're not going to bother us, but Chelsea and Liverpool out this season, because how would that affect what points everybody's got? Suddenly we could go from 3rd to 6th or 7th.
Just touching on the Spurs and Mourinho drama that's obviously happened today, I fully believe that Mourinho refused to set training because he's disgusted by the decision. That's my opinion. I don't see how Tottenham, who are a club without a trophy for God knows how many years now, would take the decision to sack their manager 5 or 6 days before a cup final, albeit a Carabao Cup, but it's still a cup and it's a trophy, and it's a trophy in your cabinet at the end of the day, and that will go down in history. For them to come out and say, results haven't been going quite right, so we decided to sack him now. Anybody that believes that and believes Tottenham and believes the statement made by them, I'm sorry, I can't understand where you're coming from. They basically sacked him because he wants no part of this Super League, and that's my opinion anyway. And fair play to him. And I think it wouldn't surprise me over the next few weeks if you see the likes of Klopp getting sacked, or Tuchel from Chelsea getting sacked or walking away, because I firmly believe that these managers, as much as you say they look stupid, Chris, they're betrayed more than anything. I believe that.
Would you want to manage them?
No, I wouldn't say they look stupid if they left. I said they've been made to look stupid because this has gone on without them knowing. Yeah.
And also, does that not put prestige managers off managing these clubs, knowing the backlash they're going to get off true fans of the game? I mean, is anyone? Mourinho's
I'll respond to that bit, Brad. And I'll ask you this then, Brad, because I was on a show earlier and I mentioned this, that, these managers could walk away. But as they said, okay, Mourinho's walked away, Klopp's going to walk, let's say, and Tuchel's going to walk. Where are they going to walk to? Because those managers ain't going to go to a Sheffield United. They ain't going to go to a Fulham. And all the big clubs, they leave. Klopp leaves Liverpool. He can't go to Dortmund because they're in the bloody ESL as well.
Yeah.
No, Dortmund aren't. Dortmund and Bayern are both refusing. Right. So there's still some.
Well, all right, yeah, okay. There. But you get what I'm saying, though, don't you?
I totally take your point, but I think if you're taking a stand on the honour of football, right? Let's just say, for argument's sake, I don't know. David Moyes goes, right, I've got West Ham into the Champions League, and for whatever reason I've lost my marbles, I'm going to retire, or something like that. Someone of that caliber, or as they've done in Spain, Athletic, one of the teams in Spain, have recorrected on their club's page the group, their league. They've taken Real Madrid and Atletico out of that. Managers like Klopp and Pep Guardiola will go to a club like that when the time is right, because they'll see them as the new project. There's going to have to be new big boys in these divisions to replace these teams if this inevitably happens. So that's where them jobs will become available. Your Sociedads, your Reals, your Evertons, your Southamptons. They might not have the money, but managers know that's the impact they're willing to sacrifice. And if they're so behind this decision, then they're willing to take it, because eventually they'll recoup what they lost in the long run. And I think that's where the respect comes from Mourinho. If what Josh and what he's come out and said is true, Mourinho's earned a lot of respect back for me on that, if that's why.
Oh yeah, I mean, he has if he has done that, and I don't dislike Mourinho. I loved him when he first came. I think he sort of he brought something to the Premier League that wasn't there before. I'm going to go this one to Julian and Barrie, only because the three of us are the more mature members of the panel, shall we say? And Melina's still wearing nappies in comparison. But if I take you back to 1982, and the South Africa was basically cut off from the rest of the world because of apartheid, and no sporting links with the rest of the world at all. Brendan's just texted me, and they set up this Super League where players from England, West Indies, and Sri Lanka all went there to play in this league. And the ICC said, who was obviously the governing body, the equivalent to FIFA, said, "Hang on a second, guys. This is illegal. You can't be doing this, because of that." And they said, "No, we're being paid loads and loads of money." And they said, "If you do that, you ain't ever going to play, for example, for England again." And lo and behold, they never played for England again. England won the first series. It was meaningless. They couldn't get TV rights. And I mean, it was a bit different in those days. But Julian, Barrie, either of you, do you remember that?
Was it Kerry Packer involved in something similar as well? Wasn't Kerry Packer in Australia?
Kerry Packer did a similar sort of thing, yeah. He did Australia, didn't he?
He didn't get off the ground, though, did it? If I remember rightly. Did it not get off the ground, or did it? I can't remember.
I'm not sure. It didn't cause quite the controversy that... because that was out of season. But this was sort of... Because it was South Africa and it banned. But the ICC stood by their guns and said, "You ain't ever playing for England again, or you ain't ever playing for West Indies again." And they didn't.
No, well, I think times have changed. I mean, that was a long time ago, Chris, and I can appreciate what you're saying. Yeah. And life has moved on, as everything else in life has moved on, and football has moved on from the day I was in football. So, and it's ever evolving. And I think we've got to remember one thing: fan power is stronger than anybody would realise. And you've got managers now discussing their situations where the clubs that they've not even been consulted about going into this Super League. I think fan power may play a very important part in, working against this particular new league. And I think, numbers count in my view. The more people stand up and be counted, the more people have to listen. So fan power today is a lot stronger than it was in those days and years ago. And I think fan power hopefully will win the day for us. But yes, I can remember that very, very situation there. But I think times have changed now, and people will threaten to do things. And I'm not quite sure whether those things will ever come off at all, or if they do, there'll be probably like repercussions as well. So yeah. I think
Julian, actually, I think I might have done Julian a disservice there in the fact that he probably is too young to remember that.
He's a young lad, is Julian, so we've got to remember that. He's still got
But Julian, I mean, it is down to the fans, isn't it? Because at the end of the day, if the fans... And I alluded to this kind of earlier in the show, but if the fans don't go to the ground, if the fans don't pay to watch the team, and it's a big ask, it really is a big ask. And I'm very surprised pleasantly surprised that, like the likes of Melina and fans of the big club have got, and said, like, no, we don't want this. They're not sticking by the guns. And Man United fans, let's be honest with you, the Glazers have got a very rocky relationship with the fans anyway. Could the fans stick together, do you think, or do you think there'll be fractions breaking off? And
I think the fans will stick together, but I also think there'll be people who want to go and watch these games, and there will be people who want to pay the subscription amount. I'm certainly not one of those people, but inevitably, there will be, and like we said, for some it might be an opportunity to see players and teams that they would never have dreamed of seeing. So, there's this huge backlash today. Be interesting to see how the next week goes by as more and more is sort of announced. There'll be more and more people commentating on what their actual thoughts on it are. But as strong as the fans are, and I do fully agree with what Barry just said, I still think the money comes first in this situation. And, if they can find a way, which I think they have, then I'm sure they will do.
You've got to bear in mind also that these clubs,
Josh,
billions of pounds into debt, and that's probably why they're doing it. They're billions of pounds into debt. Manchester United is about £500 million in debt, and along with all the rest of them, you're talking about £7 or £8 billion of debt. That's why they're doing it: to get their debt, to get the money, and to make some money out of it. I should imagine, because I think they've not spent their money very wisely, and they've run the club into the ground. Some of these football clubs are,
It's just.
I just want to say, ferocious. Sorry, Melina. Sorry, Ferocious Flame. You're going on a meltdown in the chat there. If you actually had been with us from the start, you would know that I wasn't putting any of the chats up because it's being very, very slow. Fine, if you want to unsub and dislike, you're not going to be the greatest loss to us, mate. It's the first time I've seen you in there, so if you got that attitude, I suggest you it's the long walk and the short pier coming together. Melina, and I'm going to come to Josh. I will come to you after, but Melina, you were going to say then.
I was just saying it's a huge cash injection, and the Kroenke family, just as an Arsenal fan, they're the 6th richest family in the world. His wife owns Walmart, and as you guys know, he owns LA Rams, and I think another stadium as well. And he built new stadiums for the NFL, and I think it's just a lot of debt accumulated, and he's just greed. Greed consumes sport. And it's happened in the past. It's happened to NBA. It's happened in NFL too. And now just a matter of time of Premier League football, English football, being Americanized. And I don't stand for it one bit.
I agree entirely.
I feel that.
I think we are saying it is. Yeah, I think it is going to be Americanized. Josh, Facebook user here, and then I know you've got a question for Barry and Julian. Facebook user said they should kick all 6 teams out of the Premier League and place them in the bottom tier. I think they should just kick them out altogether and they don't play in any of the English leagues.
Definitely, it looks like it is sort of going that way. I think even fans of the greedy 6 are even saying, yeah, do it, because it will teach our owners a lesson. So if they're saying it, then even Melina being an Arsenal fan, even she agrees. And it just goes to show that what they think to this absolute farce. To be honest with you, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Did you have a question? Did you say for Julian and Barry?
I did. Just obviously, you two are obviously from the professional side of things. I thought about this earlier. And
I thought you were going to say you two are from the past then.
No, I wouldn't say that. Especially Barry, being a previous owner and obviously a director and things like that. I thought earlier about how this could possibly affect teams and clubs that are looking for potential buyers. Like, let's take Newcastle for example. They're desperate for Mike Ashley to sell. With this European Super League now, I mean, we've all up until now, and until the Super League does start, the Premier League has always been the carrot for any professional team in England, even semi-professionals that can turn professional. It's always to get to the Premier League and compete. Now that the Super League it's going to happen. and it's obviously 15 teams that are founders. They'll never ever leave that league. For teams like Newcastle who are looking for new owners to come in and buy them, what does this say for potential owners for clubs like that? If they look at Newcastle and think, well, it's going to take me years and years and years to even get a glimpse of being in that European Super League, how does that affect them potentially being bought out by new owners who look at it and think, well, I'm not going to touch them because they're nowhere near that sort of level yet and it's not worth my time? Would that be the case? Or
you tend to get two types of owners. You get one that wants to buy a football club on the cheap because it's just about to go bust, so they'll just take over all the debt and then go down that route. Or you get another type of owner who wants to put some money into a football club where it sees potential and can develop it, i.e. Leicester City, for example. These new owners have really gone to town. I mean, they bought the club from Milan Mandrick, and I worked for Milan in Portsmouth when he was down there. So they've seen the opportunities and they've seen the potential of a club, and they've put a lot of money into it. And hopefully, long term, that money will, pay dividends. Not only is it paying dividends now for the fans and for the club, but for the owners as well, who spend a lot of their own personal money in this business. But depends really on what people are looking for. Some people I've known bought football clubs on the cheap just to get a football club under the name, and they bought the debt and the other person's walked away. Other people put a lot of money into something to develop it. I mean, I don't think at the moment, with this COVID pandemic and all the issues we've got, it's not worth buying any football club at the moment, and particularly ones with a massive debt anyway. The time will be right when people can go back into a stadium, there's activity, there's spending, there's fans are in there enjoying all the facilities that the football clubs offer. That's the right time to do it. I'd like to buy a football club, but it'd have to be the right one for me. Yeah. I'll bet on the cheap.
You'll do a damn better job than Stan Kroenke will ever do, mate. No, I don't have to go. I was saying he would do a damn better job than Stan Kroenke would ever do in his whole life at owning a football club.
But you said Sevilla.
Yeah, Sevilla announced.
Sevilla announced they're not joining the Super League. Yeah,
it just came out from Fabrizio Romano.
But it does take some clubs like that to actually stand up and say this isn't going to happen. What makes me laugh is the fact that you've got 6 from this country, more than any other country. But I think this is something that's going to go on and on and on. And I've got to be honest with you guys. I'd love to. We'd still be here at sort of midnight talking about this, and I've got a hot date at 9 o'clock, so I'm going to have to. When I say a hot date, at my age, it's more sort of lukewarm with the neighbour. We've got to catch up on line of duty. So I'm going to say, I'm going to leave you with the thought: get through our gin. I mean, are we all? I think we've all agreed. If nothing else, as I say, it's bringing the fans together. I think we've all agreed, haven't we, that it is a bad idea. And with all respect to Melina, just kick the clubs out.
Yeah, I agree. I hate to say it, but I'm not going to watch this atrocity happen. I'm not supporting greed.
Yeah, if you kick all the clubs out, those 6, for example. I mean, when I was at Leicester City, there were some big names that aren't in that Premier League at the moment. You got like Leeds and you got the Wolves and you got the Aston Villas. All those big clubs then, the Newcastles and Blackburns, they were the big clubs at the time I was in the football. And there'll be opportunity for those clubs to get bigger and grow. Hopefully, that might be an opportunity then to buy a club.
They honestly deserve it. We don't deserve it. Our owner doesn't care about the fans or the game.
Your question, Josh, that might be an opportunity to buy a club then. If those 6 clubs go out of the Premier League and 6 new ones come in, there might be opportunities for those clubs to be bought by people who can see an opportunity to develop them inside the Premier League. I mean, Bolton Wanderers at one time was a big club when I was at Leicester City. Places like that. They all disappeared. Even Cardiff was. So there's opportunities to buy clubs, but the timing's got to be right, and it's got to be in the right setting.
Certainly.
When Barrie was younger, the big clubs were like Bolton and Blackpool and clubs like that. The funny thing is, and I will end on this now, but the funny thing is, like, when I moved down to Poole, I actually started going to watch Poole Town, basically because I thought there's no way Poole Town will ever play Leicester, because I can't support Bournemouth, because that would be like having an affair. You know what I mean? It's like Leicester in my club, Bournemouth in the league club. And as it happened, that, you know, there's a lot of people down here. I mean, one of my best mates is an Arsenal fan, but he's also a Bournemouth fan because he lives down there. So I started going to Poole Town. It was the last season of Charlie Austin before he went on to Swindon. And I tell you what, you made so welcome. You stood behind the goal with the guy that owns the club, talking to him. It is, you know, these big clubs, they've just lost everything. They've got no idea about us as fans, have they, Julian? I mean, you know, they're just not, they just don't give a shit about us. And you go to these little clubs and it's just like it's just like, oh, that's the owner, and the players come out and chat afterwards. It's just a different world.
It is. I mean, I know in the last sort of 10 years, and not for a couple of years now, I've managed like non-league teams that would be around step 10. The league up here is called the Northern Counties East League, and that's what I love about it. And I definitely would go and watch that over a professional, you know, live game, because there's a nice bit of honesty with the game, a lot more than you see on the TV. And obviously the deciding factor is that I can have my pint and watch the game at the same time next to the pitch. So it's much more of an honest game. You can see some really good talent coming through, and I follow quite a few local teams before I'd ever sort of make the trip over to Sheffield to watch my old team. So yeah, fully agree with that. You get some real good honest football.
Good. Guys, thank you all so much. I'm sorry that, you know, I've never had 6 in before, so it was it meant that we were having to move it around and cut people off a lot. Melina, all the way from Canada, in the middle of your not that I ever cut Brad off. I mean, Brad only ever gives short answers, doesn't he? You know, Melina, you're in the middle of doing your dissertation and what have you. So thanks very much for coming on. Good luck with that.
Thank you very much for having me on the panel.
Thanks very much for coming on. Take care now, and thanks for what you do. Barrie, thank you very much as well for coming on, mate. Like I say, you're the one with the expert knowledge. And don't forget, just give a shout out, give me a rest, because I say it every time. But tell us all about your book and the discount.
Well, it's because I started in Leicester City in 1991 in April, and also it's my birthday in April. I decided to do a 30% off to celebrate the 2 occasions. So anybody who wants to buy the book, I'll put a message in it, I'll sign it, and I'll even put a Pierpoint out poster if you want. And
you got them all, did you?
Oh, I put them all, don't worry. I wanted to pay off. I'm happy to do that. Let me just say one more thing before I go. Leicester has a heart and is a community, and that's something that I think is very important. Leicester has a heart and a community as a football club, and I can always remember 2 other people that were very good looking after the fans. One was Jack Haywood at Wolves, and one was also Jack Walker at Blackburn. Those people were there for the fans. They walked around and talked to the fans. They might have been corporate people, they might have been big millionaire owners, but they're the sort of people that fans like the ones at Leicester here. You get your people at Newcastle where they, you know, piss fans off because they don't talk to them and don't communicate with them. This is the difference. That's why fans matter. And that's why it's important that those people who pay that money week in and week out for years on end, some of them from the age of 5 up to 95 or whatever, they're important people. And a club that looks after their people is a club worth supporting. End of story.
Well said.
Yeah, totally agree. And I used to work at Blackburn Rovers, which was a bit annoying because I lived in Burnley at the time. So I would took my life into my hands every time because they absolutely hate each other. It's up there with the Celtic Rangers rivalry. And Uncle Jack, as he used to be known up there, the owner, he was he used to pop in, a bit, and it was great. It was great times. And then the chicken people took it over. But you can say all the W's, mindingmyownfootballbusiness.com, 30% off to celebrate Barry's 30th birthday in April. Yeah, right.
Julian.
Barry, thanks very much, mate. Take care. Thanks for coming on.
Cheers, Barry. Nice to see you.
Cheers, Barry.
Bye-bye.
Cheers. Julian, thanks very much as well, mate. Always good to have the professional footballer side. Like I say, you guys know what you're talking about. We don't. Let's hope. I mean, people are coming out. Managers are coming out. Managers have got to be careful what they say, because obviously they're still employed by these clubs and they're under contract, so they've got to be very careful how they say things. I think we're going to see a lot of remarks from managers, a bit like the Queen. In reply to Harry and Meghan, memories maybe changed, or whatever she said, But I think if players and what have you start to sort of say these things, then who knows? So, Julian, great, mate. Thanks very much for coming on. It's been a pleasure as always. I will see you later in the week.
Cheers.
Take care. Bye-bye. Cheers. Josh, I let's meet my normal football show chum. You've really been left out in the cold a little bit there, haven't you?
I loved it, mate. Genuinely, it was nice to obviously hear from fellow fans such as Melina and obviously Brad, and then to see it from the other perspective of professional footballer Julian, and then the likes of Barrie, who obviously he were massive for Leicester at the time, and to see it from their side of things, because they're obviously going to look at this in a totally different viewpoint than we are. So fascinating. It's brilliant as always. Mate, loved it.
I appreciate that, mate. It's strange times, I mean, I don't think people are saying they should be kicked out straight away. Whether that, I mean, I say if that was to happen, we've still got games to play against Chelsea, and then if you knock, say, Chelsea out, West Brom lose 3 points because they stuffed 5 past, Chelsea themselves. So they can't do that, can they? I don't know how they would do that. They've got to play it till the end. And in fairness, you can't. It hurts the fans, doesn't it? And that's what would be unfair about that.
Of course it does, mate, and it hurts both sets of fans, and like I say, and I alluded to the fact earlier that I feel so sorry for United fans, Arsenal fans, Chelsea fans, because there's been murmurs about this sort of thing happening for a while, but then it's just literally completely come out of the blue that this is definitely happening, and the fans ain't got to say in it, and they've got to, unfortunately, they've got to swallow this now, and they can either choose to carry on supporting the team in this Super League, or say no, I want no part in it, and I can't blame them if they did that, not at all, mate. And it's sad, but it's the way of the world. It's football, and it's just all about money, unfortunately.
It is. I mean, Bronze Plumbers just said there, play it to the end, and then dock them. Well, he said 40 points, but dock them so many points each, and then kick them out. And somebody said earlier, if they come back in 3 or 4 years, do what Rangers did, start at the bottom and work your way up again if they want to come back. The problem is, as fans, we can't just change our team, can we? You said, Brad said, he followed Leicester in his mum's womb. You can't just say now I'm going to be a Bournemouth fan. I couldn't say that. I couldn't drop Leicester. I spent a fortune on stuff behind me. And that's the joy of being single. I wouldn't do that. No, that's how you tell I'm a single man. If I was married, I wouldn't have all that behind me. But you can't just say, I can't support them now because they're in that league. I want to last question before I let you go, Josh.
Yeah. The
big thing that I've noticed is that Celtic and Rangers fans have always said, if we come down, we'd be one of the big six and we'd be like that. They're not being included in this, are they?
They're not. And it just quickly on that point as well, Celtic and Rangers, I think people have asked a question today about, if the FA and UEFA to say, right, United, Chelsea, they're not you're not being part of the Premier League anymore, then maybe Rangers and Celtic could be invited to play in the Premier League. But then again, that has a knock-on effect for Scottish football, because Scottish football, as it is, Rangers and Celtic are the dominant force, and they are the main drawing point to that. So the Scottish League's going to suffer then, because without its two main drawing points, what's the interest going to be like for that? You know what I mean? And I don't know. I mean, just quickly, Celtic and Rangers are massive clubs. I'm not naive enough to believe otherwise. There's just so many downsides and so many things to look into. It's a farce, mate. It's an absolute farce. I don't support it at all. I agree totally with what Gary Neville said on Sky Sports yesterday. His rant. For me, it's going to be, say, the death of football, and I think it's going to take a while for football to be sort of resurrected to what the Premier League and what we believe it is to be now. Definitely.
A yes or no? Did football die today?
I think so, and even if they do get backtracked now and they say, oh, well, the Super League ain't going ahead. Again, you just feel for them, for the greedy Six fans, because they've got to support a club, they've got to live with a club whose owners wanted this to happen, went behind their back, and you can never trust them again, never.
Yeah. Brad is saying what's happened to Tyson Fury. Let's not go there. Josh, thanks very much, mate. Thanks for having you on. Sorry, like I say, it was trying to fit everybody in for 6, and I am on a tight I am on a promise, but it's only a promise to watch a TV program, and I missed it yesterday because of the FA Cup, so I'm definitely going to watch it tonight. Josh, thank you so much for joining us. I'll see you Thursday night.
Thursday, yeah. Get back to normal football talk. But pleasure as always, Chris. Thanks for having me, bud.
Cheers, Josh. Thanks very much. Take care, bud. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Mate. Take care of yourself, pal.
Cheers. So, yeah, Bronze, how are you doing? You've said it's not a case of fans leaving the club. The greedy Six are leaving the fans, only to be forgiven when they return on the knees. I know what you're saying, but let's be totally, totally honest. If this was Leicester, if Leicester were invited in because they said, hey, Leicester were the last team to win the Premier League, we're going to invite Leicester in, would you stop supporting Leicester? And that's why I've got respect. I'd be annoyed, and I've got total respect by for the fans like Melina of Arsenal and the guy that was on TalkSport from Liverpool, and there was one on TalkSport from Man City, who are coming out and blasting their team. But actually to stop supporting them, it is really, really hard. It so is. But hey, we've got a game on Thursday, believe it or not. In the midst of all this, a game of football is going to break out. West Bromwich Albion, not to be taken lightly at all. We've got to remember that they stuck 5 past Chelsea. So, West Brom are no fools this last couple of weeks. So tomorrow night I will be back at 7 if the it's going to be doing the Opposition View show. So Tuesday night, 7 o'clock, Matt from West Bromwich Albion, we're going to do the Opposition View show. He did the first one when in the first game, so it'd be nice to have him back on Wednesday. I'm lost with my days here. You can see my brain ticking over. You can probably see the smoke coming out my ears. On Wednesday, we are going to be having the preview show with Craig and possibly Steve Linux. And on the Thursday pre-game, it's the pre-match show with Josh and Richard Smith again, and then the post-match show with Brad and Julian. So, a busy week. And then we've got to get ready for a game on Monday. Hey, it's all kicking off, isn't it? No pun intended there. If you want to listen to this again, you can. Please go to the YouTube and click on Leicester Till I Die TV on that subscribe button. I can't tell you, we need to try and get to 500 before the end of the series, before the end of the season, sorry. So click that subscribe button. And if you want to listen to us rather than watch us, so that when you got some handsome buggers well, we had Melina on today, so we had a bit of a nice one there for the lads. Stefan wasn't here. What can I say? Stefan, you left, and Melina came on. But you can listen to us on all your top podcast platforms, including Anchor FM, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Apple iTunes, Spotify, and Podcast Addict. As Brad says there, be sure to turn notification on, guys, so you get notified when we go live. It's all great. It's all great. Hey, you know, I'm still annoyed, and I'm still annoyed. I tell you what I am. I'm more actually annoyed, not the fact that this has all gone on because it's been bubbling under the surface for years, but that it's come out. We've got through to our first final, our first FA Cup final since 1969. I was 8. It was the Jurassic period, I'll tell you. And it's almost got forgotten. Bit annoying, but that's football these days for you. Guys, it will be nice to get back to talking about football tomorrow night with Matt, the West Brom fan. Don't forget, all the W's, mindingmyownfootballbusiness.com for 30% and a signed book off Barrie Pierpoint. 30% off up until the end of April. So you've got about 10, 12 days still to nip it in there. Will we be looking at this much longer? It is the Premier League. How long are we going to have the Premier League for? Well, I think we should have the Premier League a lot longer. Kick those 6 out next season. We don't want them. We don't need them. It'll hurt for a couple of seasons, of course it will, but we'll slowly get back. And we'll be getting games that mean something. You know, we'll be playing Notts Forest again and Coventry again, you know. But anyway, don't start me off again. Guys, thanks very, very much for watching. I apologise for the technical issues we had today. I couldn't get all your comments on. I tried to read some of them out as we're going through. But thanks very, very much for watching. We're back tomorrow night at 7 o'clock, same channel. And it will be the Opposition View show ready in turn for the West Brom game. Good night. Stay safe.
Hello, Matt Elliott here. Be sure to watch Leicester Till I Die TV on YouTube and follow all their social media platforms for all the latest updates and news on Leicester City Football Club.
Thanks for watching Leicester Till I Die. This is Chris saying goodbye and see you next time.
Some people are on the pitch. They think it's all over. It is now.